Hello, Podsmashers of the internet, and welcome to episode 2 of
80-bit newscast. Da 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 da. It's gonna be different every time.
It will be every single time, just like our ships were when we first started our show. Remember that?
Yep. Yeah. Oh gosh, man, the ships.
We are 80-bit Podsmash. I am your host, Termite, and this
Yep.
is.
And I am your other host, Penguin.
And tonight
And
we
our-
will be bringing you through video game news from the week, giving it all to you, and our own little exposition or spin or reactions to it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what our show, this newscast version of our show is. So, as always, it is available now live, and it will be available on Twitch for a few days after it uploads, like every Twitch video.
Mm-hmm.
And we will upload it permanently to YouTube after it is done. So by tomorrow morning, you should have, or tomorrow sometime in the day, you should have the ability to watch it on YouTube. So again, also as always, feel free to make comments and discuss amongst yourselves in the chat. But we will be reserving our feedback, our actually looking at that chat. We'll wait till the end where we'll have a bit of time where we will respond to questions, respond to comments. You can tell us we're wrong, and we will publicly acknowledge it. And so that's kind of how that goes. We'll give you guys a heads up as to when that's going to be when we get to our last story.
Yep.
So that way the Twitch delays and all that good stuff don't fight against us.
Some housekeeping,
Ooh.
really quick, before we get into
Yep.
the news. Every single week, we will launch a new episode of 80-Bit Podsmash at midnight on Mondays. That's where we go to smash ideas that you care about with video games, where gaming goes to grab a beer. That is a topical episode where we talk about a topic that we care about. And I do believe next week we have a topic about... What
We
is
have
the
a
one we
topic-
already recorded?
Gosh, okay, yes. Next week, we will have a topic about game endings. Nope. Everything Resident Evil.
There you
That's
go. I was saying, it's October. We have our October extravaganza coming up. The entire month of October is going to be Halloween themed, and we're going to end that whole month with a really cool Halloween special episode, Monster Smash. But expect a Resident Evil deep dive, whatever we call the franchise. What do we have?
Yeah.
We have a name for that.
Everything Resident Evil.
Everything Resident Evil. So that's coming up Monday at
That's coming
midnight.
up on Monday.
You can also find us here on twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash on Wednesday evenings at 8 o'clock. That's our video game live streams. I will be streaming again this week, and I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to stream yet. Would love some suggestions in chat. I have a couple of ideas, a couple of suggestions, but I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. So those are all of those. If you have any information, if you're here by YouTube...
Said going west?
Hey, how about that? If you have any questions about where we are, you can go to our landing website, 80bitpodsmash.com, 80bitpodsmash. That's where we have links to all of the podcast platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere. And then if you want to find us here on Twitch, twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash. We have links to Discord and our show notes for every podcast, and we're also across all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we have our own Reddit. So you can start a thread in our Reddit and check out our community and interact with each other there. So, without further ado, tonight, what are we going to tell you guys about? Penguin.
That's right. So the major highlights of the news that we're going to be hitting from this past week, it's less than a week, because since this is our second episode, we did our last week's episode on Wednesday, so we have only had like 5 days of news to generate, but that's fine because some interesting stuff happened.
Yep.
First, we're going to talk about the Tokyo Game Show, which happened this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big conference in Tokyo. In Japan, obviously, talking about video games specifically for Japanese audiences. So we'll talk about some of the big announcements and stuff that was showcased there. We will be talking about the Halloween event that will be coming to Animal Crossing.
Yes.
A big deal for Animal Crossing fans out there, and something that I know Termite's excited about talking about. We'll be talking about the announcement of Amazon Luna. Luna, is that what it's called? Yeah, it's their answer to Project Stadia. So stick around to hear more about that if that intrigues you. We'll be talking about the Xbox Series X expansion, storage expansion slots drives that they will be releasing, and we'll go through the details on that. And then we'll be closing out the night talking about a Left 4 Dead 2 update, update to a game that's like content update to a game that's what? Gosh, how old is that game? Like 15 years at this point?
11.
Ridiculous. 11 years old. Ooh, close. So yeah, so that's all very exciting. So yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it and let's talk Tokyo Game Show.
The Tokyo Game Show happened September 23rd through the 27th, and I have a list of some highlights here. Starting off with Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. There was a live gameplay show. I didn't get to watch much of it. I did tune into some of it. Young Impa was unveiled for the first time. How cool was that?
So showed off. Yeah, that's exciting because it's like Impa's been in so many Zelda games that when you say Impa's going to be playable in Age of Calamity, I'm like, of course she is. Which version of Impa's going to be playable in Age of Calamity? But then I had to remind myself, in Breath of the Wild, Impa was this like crooked old lady, that like crooked old crone that like guides you on your journey. So I was like, oh yeah, she's gonna be like young Impa. That's exciting. So it'll be 100 years in the past. So that's awesome.
I'm excited about that too. Whatever else they're gonna do with the lore. Hat drop for our episode about lore is coming up in a couple of weeks. We're gonna record that tonight. Also, continuing that on, Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity, Breath of the Wild bonus items were unveiled. If you have a Breath of the Wild save on your Switch, then you'll get a special like bonus sword right off the bat. That's pretty cool.
It's just a wooden practice sword, but whatever. It's something. It's something. Yep.
The special editions were shown off as well. There's a metal charm of a mysterious white robot and a full-size parasail blanket. I don't know how much those will be or if they're going to come out to the West, but they were showed off and looked kind of neat. Monster Hunter Rise. There's a new Monster Hunter game for the Switch. They showed off new abilities, combat, dog, companions, and more. I didn't watch that at all. I love Monster Hunter Worlds on the PlayStation, but it's pretty much the only Monster Hunter I have followed. So that I don't know.
And I don't know it's specifically designed with Western audiences in mind, or as this is more along the lines of what they typically do well with in Japan. It's super popular in Japan. That's why that's why it's a big deal for Japanese audiences for sure.
There's a new Nier game being released in the West in April of 2021 called Nier Replicant version 1.224744871139, and it is a Japanese RPG from 2010.
I love it. I adore it.
The name? You love the name?
But it is I believe it's like a remaster of the original Nier.
Right. The 2010 Japanese RPG.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, all right. I see what you said. You just literally just said those words. I did. But you announced it like so I was still hung up on when you said a new Nier game. I was like, well, actually, but okay, got it.
Yep.
I'm following.
It's 1.224744871139. I want to memorize that. I really do. I love that name.
We had an episode a few weeks back on game titles, and that is an awful game title that I also love. Like I also because it just seems like such a troll for the audience. Like, all right, fine.
It's worse than those Kingdom Hearts names, like 356 over 2 days or whatever it was called. Or all right. Next was Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires. I did watch the opening cinematic reveal of that because I was interested in Dynasty Warriors because of my love for Hyrule Warriors. Like that's the crossover. That's the kicker. That's what Koei Tecmo was trying to do. That's exactly like everything is from. There's a designer, I forget his name, that these games are all like from, like Fire Emblem Warriors and Hyrule Warriors, Dynasty Warriors, like all those kinds of games.
Yeah, dude, did you ever play Dynasty Warriors growing up on the PS2?
Yeah,
I mean, I love those games. They're awesome.
Yep. So there's a new one coming for all the platforms: PS5, Nintendo Switch, Xbox, PC, all of it. And then there was a new update on Balan Wonderworld, which was the game that was shown off, made by Yuji Naka. He's the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog and Nights into Dreams. We had an episode about that entire debacle and how developers from Nights were using an engine from Sonic, but it's in our Sega Saturn episode. Anyway, he's making this new game called Balan Wonderworld. It was shown off, I think, before a major live stream this summer, and I can't remember exactly where it was, but it looks really cool. It's like a platformer, kind of cartoony, but it's published by Square Enix, very Japanese, and apparently it's going to have PS5 capabilities. I don't know a whole lot about that, but they did talk about next-gen stuff, platform action game for Square Enix, so it's exciting. I'm cool with that. I didn't catch this at all, in fact, until I saw this list going over the news prior to the show, that there was a Cyberpunk 2077 environment designer interview, and he explained how his team built Night City. So there was a whole live stream about the environment. The coordinator, Hiroshi Saka, so I'm going to butcher this name, Sakakibara, shed some light on the design behind Night City. So just adding more hype to the already like exploding hype for Cyberpunk.
Interesting for sure that like such a Western, because obviously this guy is a Japanese man who works for CD Projekt Red, which is probably why he talked about it. But at TGS, but it is kind of interesting that like, oh yeah, this is a really Western game that's featured at Tokyo Game Show. But
I'll explain why. I'm actually going to read a little expert. This explains it. So from IGN, Ezra Karabi, Ezra Krabi, I don't know how to pronounce this writer's name. Sakakibara is responsible for the visual appearance of Night City as part of the environmental art team at CD Projekt Red. He was asked for his favorite spot in Night City, and he said while just picking one location is difficult, his favorite area would have been Japantown. An area can be reached by crossing the canal from Retro China, the area in which protagonist V resides. Japantown is a vibrant downtown area with many towering buildings, and while walking through the narrow alleys in the area, these skyscrapers make it feel like you are walking through a futuristic valley. According to Sakakibara, entering one of the skyscrapers in the area and then randomly getting off the elevator halfway and walking the stairs from there is a truly dynamic experience. You will see details like terrace seating, kiosks, and other shops, people hanging out their clothes, somebody sitting at a balcony, a drone carrying goods, and more. Holy cow. Just listen to what I just read and like think about all of the environment storytelling that's happening and how alive this world is going to feel. I can't wait for Cyberpunk, man. Oh,
let's keep it going because this is a long list of things and not all of it's that interesting.
Right. All right, so next, Resident Evil Village. That's Resident Evil 8. Having like apparently looking into Xbox One and PS4 releases alongside of next gen. This is yet another next gen exclusive kind of game. It's backpedaling and saying it's going to come out on previous gen consoles, which calls into question the whole like draw the line in the sand, generation gaps.
Surprised it's a transition year. You know what I mean? Like, I expect that many games will be at least considering that for the next several months. But
why not tap into 100+ million PS4s? Why would you not?
Right.
Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
There was also some footage and details about Resident Evil Village. Apparently it's like more open world and it will focus more on exploration than Resident Evil 7, which I haven't played Resident Evil 7, so I don't really know much about what that means. But when I hear that from a Resident Evil title, that doesn't do it for me. I'm not in for exploration in Resident Evil. I want,
unless it's like you discover really scary crap. Like, I would be totally down if you like, I mean, even if it's not like jump scares, but if you just like, oh, I'm gonna go into this house here. Oh, look, there's people all strung up by their toes, and oh, look, one of them might be still kind of alive and struggling for breath, where it's just terrifying stuff. Then I'm like, yeah, horror,
yay, scary things. The I feel like we talked about this, but Virgil's coming to Devil May Cry 5 on the PS4 and Xbox One via DLC. This is the okay, got it. I understand now. So Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition was announced for PS5, and with it you could play Virgil, and that was cool. Now that it's confirmed that Virgil is going to be available on PS4 and Xbox One via DLC. So if you don't want the next gen one, then there you go. You can. And then I think I'm going to short circuit the rest because there's a lot of things. Again, we are a small organization, 80-bit Podsmash. We just kind of go over the things that we care about, not everything. So I'm going to end the Tokyo Game Show. There's more that happened. There's more announcements, but this was the biggest one I think that got the most headlines, and that's a Resident Evil Infinite Darkness is a CGI show that's coming to Netflix.
Featuring Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield from Resident Evil 2. So that's super exciting. And yes, it's a TV show, but still awesome. Netflix has done pretty well with Castlevania, which is another Capcom. Nope, that's Konami.
Right.
It is but still, it's a video game adaptation, animated video game adaptation. So I will definitely be paying attention to Infinite Darkness.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Stories of two popular characters, Leon and Claire, adding suspense to a dynamic action series. See, I wonder how this will fit into the grand scheme of Resident Evil's story, because Leon, of course, persisted through Resident Evil 4. But then it really focused on Chris Redfield for like 5 and all the way through 7, and now we see 8. Chris is still relevant. And his sister, of course, is Claire. But like, we've moved past, how many entries in Resident Evil are we now past Leon? And so we're circling back around. Like, where does this fit in? And kind of, I'm wondering like how that
kind of like their characters in and out of the narrative pretty frequently. So as in my experience, or some have Jill, some have Chris, some have Jill, some have Claire, some have Leon. So like, what, who knows where this takes place in the timeline. This show could take place right after the events of Resident Evil 2.
Good.
I don't know. I haven't actually seen the trailer, but that would be. They look like they kind of look like they do in that game, but
yeah.
So that's cool. That's exciting. Let's move on to Animal Crossing. Tell me who doesn't care about this.
Because you don't like good games. We know that. Our audience knows, Penguin, you do not like good games, and you complain about stuff that doesn't really matter, and you don't buy them, and you refuse to change. We get that.
Pretty much.
It's okay. I'm joking. Okay, so Animal Crossing's next big update. This comes by way of The Verge by Andrew Webster. New Horizons Halloween-themed fall update adds new features to the game, including the option to grow pumpkins, which can be harvested for DIY projects, and the ability to collect candy for the big day and purchase new costumes. And this is a quote from Nintendo, and how they describe it. Neighbors will gather in the plaza on October 31st, which will be adorned with an array of Halloween decorations. You'll also receive a visit from the mysterious guest, Jack, the star of Halloween. By giving Jack lollipops and candy, you'll earn spooky in-game rewards. Be sure to save some candy for your neighbors too, or you might get pranked. Luckily, you can learn a couple of new reactions to properly express your feelings of fear. And they showed off at the very end of this trailer, the Nook Link phone app will have the ability to trigger reactions in the game now, which is awesome, because now you don't have to fumble through the extra wheel in the game. Looking at the trailer, if you just watch it, I'm so excited. Planting the pumpkins, growing them, harvesting them, and using them to decorate your house. There's like all kind of pumpkin lamps and Halloween-themed decorations to decorate outside and inside your house. A whole new slew of clothes, costumes. You can paint your face, change the color of your skin so you can dress up like a vampire or a witch, or, oh, I'm pumped. I cannot wait. The whole update is free for everyone on September 30th. Get ready. I know I'm playing.
Cool. I do like the idea of the spooky reactions, but did you say that you can like now select reactions on your phone?
Right, so the game can be running and you can have your phone up, and then there's a whole like slew of reactions. So in the game, that's kind of cumbersome, but there's more reactions. So there's a wheel that you can bring up around your character, and that only has a limited amount of slots. There's more reactions that get available in the game to you than those slots. So if you want to get to those, you have to jump through a couple of extra menus to bring up a different one that has everything. Or the shortcuts that exist on the wheel, which you don't want to have to constantly switch those out. So the ability to see them all on your phone and press them on your screen.
I guess, but like how, like, are you gonna, if you're playing in handheld mode, you have to set the entire console aside and then get your phone out and pull up your app and, oh crap, ignore my text messages, and there, now I can react.
Well, how do you play? What, you're sitting in a chair. You put your phone in the arm of the chair. It's just there and it's open, and then you have your handheld and you just let go of one Joy-Con and hit the button and you go back. What are you talking about?
You instinctively know exactly without having to look where your fingers.
Well, sure, you might have to look, but that's okay. Like, I look down at my notes when I'm talking to you.
People don't want to put the controller down, and people don't want to look at their phone when they're doing stuff. That's a very Nintendo design kind of thing. I'm not saying it's bad.
It's convenient.
Maybe it'll work. Maybe it will be. I mean, it's more convenient than their already cumbersome UI, but that's a whole separate problem.
Yeah.
It's a different problem. And they're answering a problem with another problem, which is a very Nintendo way of doing things.
It is Nintendo. I will give you that.
It's a Nintendo way of doing things,
Yep.
but it's a Nintendo way of doing things. Let's be real. All right. Is that all for Animal Crossing then?
It wasn't a whole lot. It's a pretty short video. So, yep.
Cool. Well, Amazon is now entering the streaming wars, as Termite said. They have announced their Project Luna or Amazon Luna. I don't know what it's actually called, but it is basically Google Stadia. Do you want to go over the specific deets real quick?
Sure. So this comes by way of The Verge, so go give them the click. Andrew Webster wrote it on September 24th. At its 2020 hardware event today, Amazon announced a cloud gaming platform called Luna. The news isn't too surprising. The service has been rumored since last year, previously codenamed Tempo, while an Amazon-made game controller leaked out just ahead of today's event. It's not clear when Luna will launch widely, but it will initially be available on PC, Mac, Fire TV, and iPhone and iPad via web apps, with an Android version planned for after launch. Amazon says that interested users in the US can request early access to the service starting today. There's no word on international availability. So the price is it's $6 a month during its early access phase, which gives subscribers the ability to play Luna Plus channel games across 2 devices simultaneously. That's a feature. Offers 4K 60 FPS, 60 frames per second resolution for select titles. Naturally, it will be powered by AWS, which is Amazon's ubiquitous web platform. It will have more than 100 games via the Luna Plus channel and launch titles when it comes out of like Resident Evil 7, Control, Panzer Dragoon, The Plague Tale: Innocence, The Surge 2, Yooka-Laylee Grid, Abzu, and Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. Amazon says more titles will be added over time. The company has also partnered with Ubisoft for a specific gaming channel, and here's how Amazon describes it. Players who subscribe to this channel will have access to their favorite Ubisoft titles on up to 4K resolution, mobile gameplay, and access to new titles when the channel launches like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Far Cry 6, and Immortals Phoenix Rising the same day they release. And this is a first of multiple Luna game channels in development where customers can play games from their favorite publishers and genres. So, there's a controller. It costs $50, so it's $49.99 during the early access period, and the controller is Alexa enabled, of course, and it connects directly to the cloud to effortlessly control your game, featuring a multiple antenna design that prioritizes uninterrupted Wi-Fi for lower latency gaming. In fact, our testing showed a reduction in round-trip latency when playing Luna with Cloud Direct versus Luna controller with Bluetooth, with reductions between 17 to 30 milliseconds among PC, Fire TV, and Mac. Because Luna controller connects directly to cloud servers, players can easily switch between screens, such as Fire TV to mobile phone, without additional pairing or configuration changes. Okay, that's kind of neat. It is in competition with Google Stadia and Microsoft's xCloud in the increasingly crowded cloud space. So there you go.
Let's talk about Luna. Let's give it a little bit of time to break it down because this is interesting. Yep. I will say, in the pros column, it has a price advantage over Stadia. Mm-hmm. You get access to at least apparently 100 games. Yep. Just for paying for the service for a month, as opposed to Stadia, which, what do they give you, like a game a month or something for being on the platform, but you still have to buy any additional games you have to buy at full price.
Right.
So, and as far as I can tell, based on that announcement, Luna doesn't have any, like, buy games at full price to play on the platform kinds of deals. So it is just like, I mean, the comparison to Netflix, it's just a game library that you buy access to and can stream them to your phone, with the addition of an eventual Ubisoft channel and more channels, I'm sure, as they work out more partnerships with different developers if they have the chance. Still does not sound appealing to me. I mean, I get that like Stadia and Luna are kind of like going for the non-gamers who don't have consoles but want to experience these things, is kind of their target demographic. But I can't really see how it's appealing at all to anyone who owns a console or plans on owning a console in the future.
Yeah, my biggest question is, how do you interact with those that do have consoles? So, like, if you sign into Xbox, you're going to have Xbox Live. PlayStation, you have PlayStation Network. And I have a friends list, and I have party chat. And, like, all that stuff is built into that ecosystem. So if I want to jump in and play... Far Cry 6 may or may not have co-op, if it's confirmed or not. But if I'm playing Far Cry 6 on this new Ubisoft exclusive Amazon Luna channel, like, how am I going to jump into a party? Is crossplay going to happen? Like, what? How do they answer that question?
Sure.
This stuff is running on Alexa enabled, AWS backbone things, which to me screams it's the PC version just running on their servers. Right, and so I guess it would connect to like Uplay or these individual. It would be as if I was playing on PC. So it would rely on the game itself to have that friend. It's the same question I have with Stadia, and xCloud solves that problem because xCloud is part of Microsoft, so it's just part of your Xbox things.
It's your Microsoft,
yeah. So I mean, that throws in all extra confusion. Latency is always an issue. Bandwidth. People don't have fast enough internet across the entire world to sustain 4K at 60 frames per second. It's just I mean, I have 100 megabits here downstream, and I tried Google Stadia when it was in beta, and it was like fading in and out of quality with that, and that wasn't even at 4K. That was 1080p. So like, they require a lot, and there's a lot on the back end. And I know Amazon's AWS stuff is crazy. It owns like half the internet. Jeff Bezos is nuts. I mean, this is something else that his empire is insane, and this is just adding to it. So I I don't know. Like, Google Stadia was not received well. It's not doing well, as far as I know, or we'd hear about it. Like, if Google Stadia was crushing, we would know. The fact that we don't know Google Stadia's financials or how much they're making or what their player base is tells us it's probably not doing that great.
Right. They're not releasing like new games on it. They're not getting any major pulls or purchases. There's nothing that they're not. As far as I know, I don't even know what's on there now, but like there's nothing that's on there that's like, oh my gosh, that's a must get. You have to play this that you wouldn't already be getting on the PlayStation or Xbox or whatever. So
yeah, I looked at the games list and it really of Stadia, and you're right. So you get a couple of games that rotate every month for free. You don't have to pay for those, and it's a grab bag of all kinds of stuff from like remasters through indie games, and like I can't even Destiny 2 I guess is the flagship free game for Google Stadia. But you're right, you have to pay full price for games like Borderlands 3, Doom Eternal, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. You have to go in and buy those games separately at the Stadia store. So Amazon doing a straight up Game Pass-esque subscription service where you just get access to the channel and you just play what you want by paying $5 a month. Granted, that's the early access period. What does that mean? Does the price go up later? I mean, there's a whole lot of questions more than what they've showed here.
Like, it's a step forward, but it's still not where it needs to be. Like, you know what I mean? It still is not the value proposition of Stadia and Luna or what, any of these streaming services is just not there yet.
Yep.
So we'll see. I guess the only one that really has any value right now is the xCloud because it's bundled with Game Pass. So there's already you're already getting a lot of value for what you pay for it. But let's move on. It's definitely going to be talked more about over the next several months, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, the streaming wars are upon us. It will always come back up.
Yeah, exactly. So the next we got two more stories. So start thinking about your questions, and once we get through the second story or this one right here, then you can start to post them. So Xbox, Microsoft announced revealed their Seagate expansion.
Expansion cards,
storage expansion cards. Yeah, we're back to memory cards, guys.
We are
proprietary memory cards. We come back around, and they are what are they? 1 terabyte, 2 terabytes?
They're 1 terabyte right now. Yeah,
1 terabyte. So the console comes with 1 terabyte of internal storage. So to get another terabyte of external SSD storage expansion on your Xbox, you will pay
$220.
How much is the Xbox Series X?
The Series X is $299.99. $80 more than the price of an expansion card.
Yeah, that's the S. Sorry, I said X. But hey, guess it's hard to hear over audio. So yeah, it's still it's like 40% of the price of the premium console, the Series X. So and then like you said, it's only $80 more to get a Series S. So like nuts. That's so expensive for basically what amounts to a memory card.
Yeah. And so here's
I have yet to really see you've been talking about this before, where like now that we have SSD technology, they should be able to reduce the actual size of games. Right. But the games they've announced and the sizes so far are like still pretty big. Like Miles Morales is like 50 gigabytes.
Yeah, it's also a PS4 game too, so you have to think about what they're doing with development on the back end. Yeah. So to clarify that statement, it's like in the original Spider-Man for PS4. This is Mark Cerny. He discussed how because the hard drives have spinning platters and they have so much time seeking where on the hard drive to load something that they've now have solid states that don't have that seeking time anymore. But to optimize the game loading speed, they would put redundant textures instead. And one of the examples was like a mailbox. There was 400 copies of this 4K texture of a mailbox all across the game's binary to optimize where on the hard drive it was. That's why new technology with the solid state next gen games won't need to do that anymore. Developers won't need to do that, so the storage sizes will be like compressed. We haven't actually seen a good example of a pure next gen game. Ratchet and Clank would probably be the first one to like really test that out.
Compared to Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah. So anyway, with these expansion cards, like why they exist, why they're so expensive. So Xbox has the Velocity architecture, and it's the equivalent to PlayStation 5's super proprietary, low-level, ridiculously fast solid state on the motherboard like drive. And with Series X and S both, games the games that are enhanced by Series X or S, or the games that are exclusive to those platforms, have to be installed on this new solid state technology. It has to be. So these expansion cards allow you to use that. Now, you can still use external USB drives to store games, but they won't run off of them. These are the Series X and S games. Now, all the backwards compatible stuff, the original Xbox games, the Xbox 360 games, and the Xbox One games will run off of a regular USB storage device you already have. If you have one, you can just plug it in USB, it works right out of the box. So this is for when you have a library of Xbox Series X or S enhanced games that require the game to run on the SSD so that you don't have to copy games around in and out of the hard drive. It's a convenience thing, and that's why they're so expensive, because these are plugged straight into the motherboard. It's ridiculously low level. There's no USB interface. There's no SATA interface. It's just straight in, and that's why it's $220. But do we need this?
Right. Yeah. I mean, people are gonna buy them for sure, but you know, I would be hard pressed to think that your average middle income gamer, like for me, just delete them. You know what I mean? Like I'll just like I already maintain, you know, hard drive hygiene on my PS4, where I'm like, okay, cool, I finished that game. I'm gonna delete it. I'm not gonna install a new game until I've deleted this game. So once I get my Borderlands 1 Platinum, I'll clear out that 20 gigabytes of space or whatever. And move. You know what I mean? So that's that's already part of my gaming habits. So I can't imagine that's going to change now, and certainly not change when the alternative is $200.
Right,
so, $220. So cool. All right. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, one last nugget, just to clarify that last statement. You can play Xbox One, Xbox 360, and original Xbox games off of this solid-state drive and get benefits from it, like faster loading. So that's another, like maybe you don't want to use your USB 3.1 hard drive anymore. You want everything to be on solid-state only because you want to get the best experience possible. Then you're going to fill up your 1 terabyte drive pretty quickly with backwards compatible library. So now you can have this expansion slot that will give you that benefit of loading.
So it gives value. It's just not something that I would imagine many people in my circumstances would be willing to trade off.
Right.
So,
I'd rather just uninstall and reinstall.
Uninstall, reinstall.
Yep.
Cool. So anyways, great. Go ahead and prepare your questions. Go ahead and type them up. Shoot them into the chat. We'll respond to them as they come in, or a little bit after they come in, and then we'll be done for the day. So last piece of news that we'll talk about to fill the time is the Left 4 Dead 2 update. So 11-year-old game Left 4 Dead 2 is getting new content, new DLC. So Termite, do you want to talk about that? Because you are our Left 4 Dead guy.
Yep. Coming by way of The Verge once again by Bijan Steven, I can't pronounce names, I apologize. Left 4 Dead 2, Valve's iconic zombie shooter, turns 11 years old. Today, the game gets a massive final update called The Last Stand, created by the Left 4 Dead community update team and endorsed by Valve. It's the first new content added to the game since 2012, according to Polygon, and that update was called Cold Stream. This update adds tons of new content to the game, new weapons, new maps, new enemy types, unused dialogue, and even a new campaign. The update is free to everyone, and Left 4 Dead 2 itself is free to play until today, the 28th, so grab it. And wow. This came out of nowhere. I am very excited about it. I fired up Steam and it crashed because I haven't ran Steam in like 2 years, so I don't know what's wrong with my PC, but I really want to play this. It's October, it's fall, I'm in, and it was on sale for like $2. So I'm excited.
Yeah. All right, so we have a couple questions. Gamertime asks, well, do we know if Luna will be accessible through things like Fire Stick or Apple Music? I'm pretty sure Fire Stick, yes. There was like a list of devices that you can play it on. I'm trying to grab those.
It said in its press release that because they compared the controller connected to Bluetooth versus the controller that will connect directly to AWS servers, that implies that Bluetooth controllers would be available. So I imagine that you can use any Bluetooth controller to connect to these devices, and Penguin will get that list of devices.
So the list of games, or so Luna games can be streamed to the following devices: Amazon Fire TV Cube 2nd generation, Amazon Fire TV Stick 2nd generation, Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K, iPhone through Safari with iOS 14, iPad through Safari with iPad OS 14, Mac OS 10.3 and above, and PC Windows 10 with DirectX 11. So those are the current list of devices. Android support's coming soon. Luna on Mac and PC can also run through Chrome browser. And yeah, that's the answer to that. So T-Bone asks, what are Sony's plans for backwards compatibility, and is it just PS4 so far? Yes.
Yep, it's
As
PS4
of right
only.
now.
The
Right now.
whole idea of PS1, PS2, PS3 backwards compatibility has been squashed. You can play whatever's available on PlayStation now. You can play that on PS5, and then there is backwards compatibility with PS4 titles. What Mark Cerny was referring to when he mentioned that there would be they looked at the 100 most played games, is they took those games and they want to make them use the hardware of PlayStation 5 to the best of their abilities. So the developers are going in and making sure that the boosted processing power can be utilized in those titles. But across the board, they've confirmed that 99% of PS4 titles will be backwards compatible on PS5, and I'm sure some will benefit from the extra hardware if you have unlocked frame rates, if you have whatever, just like you get a new graphics card in your PC and you can just fire up the game with no patch and it runs better. That kind of stuff will happen, but that's like case by case basis. So PS4 only.
Yep.
Sorry.
No PS1.
Don't worry,
You can't
I'm
take
not.
your PS1 and 2 and 3 games are still useless unless you have those consoles. So, yeah, that is unfortunate. But again, there's been no announcements, and this late in the game, I would be shocked if they revealed anything about that. So, yep. All right. If there are no more questions, then I think that is the show. So, yeah, we are going to go record a recorded show now. And we will see you guys next week for another 80-Bit Newscast at 8.
Be here at 8 p.m. at twitch.tv/8bitpodsmash, because there will be news dropping tomorrow morning about Pokemon Sword and Shield's Crown Tundra expansion. There's going to be a Nintendo Direct about it. I can't wait to hear all about the Crown Tundra expansion, and then we'll talk about it a week from today on this very show. So
Huzzah.
make sure you guys
All
come
right.
back for episode 3 next week, and we will